This is a special edition of Late Night Health. I'm Mark Alyn. The cannabinoid market is evolving and seeing rapid growth at the consumer level. But before product gets to consumers, there are numerous product development and regulatory issues that need to be addressed. Discussing where the industry is headed and the myriad of supply chain components that need to be considered is Dave Neundorfer. He's the CEO, Chief Executive Officer for Open Book Extracts, a foremost source for quality hemp-derived cannabinoids. Dave, thanks for joining us here on Late Night Health.
Thanks for having me, Mark.
How did you get into the CBD industry? I mean, this is a new industry relatively. How'd you get into it?
Well, the things that attracted me to the industry, Mark, I have a mechanical engineering background. And so I worked in manufacturing plants making parts for automotive clients, engine valves for Honda and Toyota, and locking differentials for off-road GM trucks, and spent most of my career in the engineering, automotive, automation realm. I started getting into cannabis in 2018. My home state of Ohio passed legislation for medical marijuana, a program that we applied for licenses and won licenses. And it was through that experience where we saw our community, patients from our neighbors going to the dispensaries and getting great benefit from plant-based treatment and getting off of their pharmaceutical drugs and prescriptions. And many of those patients were gravitating towards the high CBD side of the dispensaries as opposed to the high THC side, which certainly has its purpose and its use. But a lot of the clientele in Ohio, they were nervous about THC. They weren't familiar with it, and they were getting great results from the CBD side for their Crohn's disease, for their anxiety, for their PTSD, for their joint pain. And it's when we saw that, we decided, my business partner and I decided that we want to enter the non-THC side of this market, which was new. It was exciting. We thought it was going to be driven by business to business growth. We thought it was going to be global. And when we started evaluating this market, Mark, we realized that there was a massive gap in supply chain reliability, consistency, safety, and customer service. So that's when we decided to found Open Book Extracts and be the leader of this new and burgeoning market.
There are a number of points that you brought up. So let's start with the legality of CBD. Is CBD legal throughout the United States?
Yes, it is. It was legalized with the passing of the 2018 Farm Bill that happened at the end of 2018. It legalized hemp and hemp-derived extracts, which CBD is a hemp-derived extracts. So it is a federally legal business, a federally legal market. And the challenge with this market is that it's new and that it has this bias of being associated with its cousin on the THC side, which is obviously still federally illegal, but many of, actually most of our states now have a medical marijuana or recreational marijuana program. And so it's requiring a lot of education for both brands and their end consumers as to what CBD is, what it works for, how to use it, and why it's safe and reliable, and most importantly, legal.
One of the things that I'm interested in is that if a manufacturer, a supplement manufacturer, is thinking about adding CBD to either current products or developing new ones, Open Book Extracts will work with them to help maximize the CBD for their clients.
Yes, and that's what we're built to do. And that engagement, Mark, typically starts with a consultative model where usually we're talking to compliance departments, talking about the regulatory and legal landscape. And then we move to procurement to demonstrate that we can pass a vendor audit And then once we check that box, then we move over to product development to start to conceptualize the range of products. And it is a broad range that they would be able to formulate using CBD as an input. And once we've gone through that process, then yes, we would love to be the formulator and the supplier and oversee all the manufacturing of their products to make sure that they live up to the open book seal of quality and consistency and reliability. But it starts with education on the market, on the underlying products, what trends are happening. It's a fast moving industry, and we absolutely love those conversations. And oftentimes we'll kick off those engagements with a 360-degree overview of the industry, the history, the regulatory, the legal framework, all the way up through the different products that we can create for them.
Let's talk about the history. Hemp was one of the main products of our founding fathers in this country. I mean,
That's
they
right.
grew it for clothing, for rope, and maybe a little bit of medicinal uses. What other history can you give us about the hemp industry?
Well, it's hard to separate the hemp industry on the medicinal side from the broader cannabis genus. Hemp and cannabis sativa, which is sometimes referred to as marijuana, are both from the same family. And they've been bred for different purposes. Of course, there's hemp that's used for fiber, which is what our founding fathers were using it for. And in the last couple of decades, hemp is now being bred to produce high quantities of non-THC cannabinoids, whereas cannabis sativa has been bred to produce high quantities of THC. And on the medicinal side of the equation, human beings have known of the medicinal properties for millennia of this plant. And I think the first known use case of the medicinal properties to treat pain goes back to 2600 BC
Oh
in
my.
China. And so, really, what we're doing is rediscovering what our ancestors, way, way, way back when, already knew through trial and error. And what we're doing today is wrapping the science and the understanding of why this plant works for such a broad range of ailments, disorders, and diseases.
With that said, do manufacturers of consumer products, do they understand what it takes to use CBD? Is that part of your education process?
The manufacturers of consumer products, more often than not, don't fully understand it. And so that is absolutely part of our process, because the market since legalization has really had a couple of hero products. There's the tincture bottle, which is an oil-based tincture that you drop under your tongue. From a product development and design standpoint, that tincture bottle was in use in the early 1900s, right? It's an apothecary-esque
Yeah.
tincture bottle. It doesn't seamlessly fit into the daily routines of the modern day mainstream consumer. And the other hero product that does, to an extent, is the gummy. And our education process is to open the aperture of all of the different product types that can better fit into the daily routines of the mainstream consumer, whether that's a pill, a dissolvable tablet, a breath strip, a piece of chewing gum, creams, lotions. There is a huge range of products into which we can put CBD. Where we specialize is being able to provide guidance not only on that range, but how to make them work so that there's a great consumer user experience at the end of the line.
My understanding is also that, a lot of consumer bottles will say there's X number of units of CBD in this bottle, but
Right.
the actual individual dose is much less. Uh, can you explain that?
Yeah, absolutely. There have been multiple exposés on consumer-facing brands, CBD brands that advertised 1,000 milligrams of CBD, and then when they ran it through an HPLC test, they found it was 800 or 500 or sometimes less than 100. And that was, I think that's a result of there not being any supply chain regulatory framework that requires and clarifies label claims and clarifies manufacturing expectations to ensure quality and consistency. So the brands took the brunt of the blowback from those exposés. We actually believe that it was the supply chain, as well as the brands not having the right testing and third-party certifications in place. But on the supply chain, when there are no guide rails on how to produce these products and how to extract the CBD, and guide rails on what it takes to deliver consistent product from batch to batch to batch, of course, you're going to have variability. And these are all some of the early growing pains in the market. And it's actually why OBX founded in 2019 to address those variability issues or supply chain issues or the lack of transparency. Where is this product coming from? Who grew it? Where was it processed? Where was it manufactured? We exist to answer all of those questions so that this market can mature and grow, be legitimized to what it should be, which is in 5 to 10 years, we firmly believe there's going to be a daily recommended dose for all consumers of a cannabinoid product.
Just on a personal note, from what you just said, do you take CBD on a regular basis? Not necessarily for pain or anything else, but because you do believe in
it? Daily. So does my wife, so do my parents, so do my in-laws. And it depends on the person. My parents take it for joint pain. They're 72 years old and in great health, but they're a little bit slow to get out of bed in the morning with joint pain. And so that's when they use it. My wife and I use it at night. Before, 30 minutes before going to sleep, just to help turn down the overactive brains, relax, and then get ready for a great full night of sleep. And so there are a lot of different use cases, but yes, I am a firm believer, a daily user, multiple times a day of CBD products. Sometimes I take it in the morning after I have that third cup of coffee and I get the coffee jitters, and it just helps me settle down, calm. And oftentimes I'll take that late morning CBD product with a 5-minute meditation, and it really recenters me for the rest of the day.
We should also talk about the fact that there are you have at Open Book, you have third-party certifications. Good manufacturing practices is probably number one.
That is, Mark, and I appreciate you bringing that up. There's no requirement that we maintain CGMP certification, which of course, as you said, stands for Current Good Manufacturing Practices. However, that's the certification that the FDA applies for other industries to maintain consistency and quality. So we're almost self-regulating to that standard so that we can differentiate ourselves in the market and be able to have great conversations with CPG companies and nutraceutical companies that expect that level of scrutiny and that level of sophistication of quality management systems. So yes, we've been GMP certified since we started this company. We just passed our recent recertification process for both food processing and nutraceuticals, so CFR parts 111 and 117 with 97 and 98% scores, which we were very proud of, and our team did a fantastic job getting us there.
And if a manufacturer who wants to add CBD or develop a CBD product, we've already established that you can help them develop that product. But if they want to know step by step the supply chain, if you will, of the product, can you tell them from planting to final manufacturer?
We can. We would welcome them to come and see us in North Carolina. We can introduce them to the farmer. We can show them each step of our production process. And that's something that we welcome of all of our clients. It's been a little bit difficult to do for the last year and a half with COVID travel restrictions. But our team and our facility are built to walk our prospective clients through our process. Every room in our facility has a window into it. And so we want to shine a spotlight on our supply chain, on our on our processes from step to step, rather than hide it. We don't have anything to hide. We're proud of what we're doing, and we love it when clients and sometimes partners come to see us to see what we're doing in North Carolina.
And we've been showing some video of that process while Dave has been talking. Dave, as we wrap up, what would you say to those who are in the CBD industry, one, and two, people who are thinking about getting into it? What would you recommend them to do, other than, of course, looking at the Open Book website, which we have placed under us throughout our program? So if you have any information that you want, you can always go there.
So for the folks who are already in the CBD industry, perhaps with a consumer-facing brand, what I would ask them to do is really think about the quality of that product, the consistency of that product, and then demand the certifications, demand the data, ask questions of your supply chain, because once end consumers and the consumer-facing brands start holding manufacturers to a higher standard in this period of time where we're waiting for the FDA to regulate, that's only going to lift the entire industry up. And so ask the tough questions. Where are you getting your product? Who's manufacturing it? What steps do you handle? And then where's the seal of approval that says, hey, this is great product that I can then take and reassure my end consumer that they're going to have a great experience. So that's number one on the existing brands. On the buyers of tomorrow, as we refer to them, who haven't come into the market yet, perhaps because their compliance department is waiting for regulatory clarity, which for public companies is a reasonable stance to take. I would say start doing your homework now, because this industry is getting ready to take off. And even if you don't launch your product for another year or year and a half, there is a lot of work to do on education, on strategy, on product development, on R&D. And we would love to be the partner that you come to do that work with. We have the team that's ready to support you. And it's in a very, very exciting time for this market, and we're thrilled to be in it.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate your time with us, Dave. We've been spending some time with Dave Neundorfer. He is the CEO of Open Book Extracts, and you can reach out to Dave and his whole team at the website that's below. I'm Mark Alyn. We'll see you next edition of Late Night Health.
Thanks, Mark.